What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video, and today we are going to review episode 8 of The Last of Us HBO TV series. We've been 8 episodes in. We're now doing a review for all 8 episodes. If you haven't seen the other ones, they have all the other ones on our channel. I have them in a playlist labeled The Last of Us HBO. So definitely go check those out. That way you can hear my thoughts on the previous 7 episodes. So with that being said, if you're new here, if you wouldn't mind leaving a like on the video and subbing to the channel, really appreciate it. We just finished our most recent episode of the Deadhead podcast. I will probably put that at the end of this video. If you'd like to check it out, we talk a little bit of Last of Us, we talk a little bit of Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, and a bunch of other shit. We had a special guest, Brandon Murado, on Murado Media. So definitely go check that out when you can. I don't think you will regret it. We had some really good conversations. And yeah, so anyway, a little housekeeping out the way. Let's get into the review for episode 8 of The Last of Us TV show. So, I like this episode. I will say I'm just starting off, man. I feel like in some of these reviews I kind of ramble on a little bit, so I'm gonna try to get straight to the point in this one. I like this episode. I finally felt like we were doing something. I felt like the show was actually moving forward. A bit fast, mind you, but I did enjoy this episode. It finally gave me a little bit of what I wanted to see. Not everything. Again, a lot of my problems with this show have been nitpicks, have been more of my own subjective opinions. But I think they're valid opinions. I don't think they're wrong because I've just been talking about things that I think that should be in the game. I think violence should be a main factor in this game. I think seeing infected should be a main factor in this game. I feel like the world should feel more dangerous. I feel like the relationship between Joel and Ellie is way too rushed in the show. I don't feel like any of the main story points hit as hard as the original title. And that's not to say the show is bad. I'm sorry if my eyes seem to be twitching. I've been like trying to get whatever the hell is out of my eye, and I can't seem to remove it. Anyway, so those have been my main gripes with this show, and honestly, those problems still translate into this episode. This episode does a lot of things right, while also doing the exact things that I've been having issues with, and so. Of course, I'm getting into it here. Again, it's okay. If you loved the episode and you felt something, then that's fine. I'm just giving you my take. I've been very critical of this show, but I think that that's okay, and I think that's fine. I don't think that's a bad thing. I didn't love it. I don't love it, but it's not a terrible show. I mean, it's not like there's some extremists out there saying like 0 out of 10 horrible, and all that, whatever. I'm not one of those guys. But so this episode follows David and the cannibals, and I was actually kind of curious to see where they were going to take this. I didn't know how dark they were going to go because this storyline goes, about as dark as you can really get. So I was really interested to see how that would translate in the show, and I'm proud to say it does it, okay. Again, with most things in this show, I feel like when they handle things, it's not that they're bad, it's just okay. I thought the actor to play David, I thought he was definitely menacing. I thought that he was definitely had some scary moments. I wouldn't say he's Nolan North David scary, but he is pretty decent. He's definitely not terrible. He definitely was. He had that creepy factor, especially towards the end there with the whole pretty much he was trying to rape Ellie at the very end. At least that's what the vibe I was getting, and he definitely was a straight up monster. So that was I thought he played that role pretty well. I have some gripes with that as well. We've seen the same thing over and over again, right? So like he's in the show. Well, in the game, I don't think they really dive into what he really does, if he really has a huge community or not of people that follows him or anything. We know he's got some numbers, but I don't know exactly if he has like a whole community that's like full of women and children and things like that. But in the show, they show that he's like a pastor, and he pretty much his people are his congregation, and this dude's just fucked up. Like they're already eating people, like especially if you played the game, when they're serving venison to everybody, it's not it's not venison. So like you see all that, and you're like, okay, yeah, this dude's definitely fucked up. But they go down the same road we've seen a bunch of times. How many times have we seen a psychopathic Christian pastor? How many times we've seen that in media? I felt that was very generic. I thought it was just like when I was watching with my sister, and when that part came up and he said he was a pastor, I'm sitting there like, are you serious? They're going to do this shit again? I've seen this so many times. Like the amount of times that I've seen them do this whole trope of, okay, Christianity bad, let's make white man who is a pastor be a freaking psychopath. They've done that shit so many times. I just thought that was just so. I roll my eyes. You know what I mean? I'm just like, okay, that's just not very interesting to me. You had a pretty compelling, menacing villain with this portrayal of the character, and I don't know. As soon as I seen that, I was like, you killed it for me. You know what I mean? But as far as him as an individual, yes, he was very creepy. We did get to see Troy Baker in this episode, the original voice actor for Joel, and I was happy about that. I thought for what the role he played, he was fine. Of course, I didn't expect much. I was kind of hoping that Joel was going to kill him. I was kind of hoping Pedro Pascal's Joel was going to kill him, and I think that would have been really, really cool, where they had a little bit more of a confrontation. I think that would have been really, really neat to see, and but we didn't get that. And he kind of went out very, very quickly. But, I was fine with it. The role he played, I did like it. And, besides the David and the cannibal stuff, you have Ellie. She's still taking care of Joel, and she's going out trying to find food because they're running low. And that's how she runs into David and Troy. Anyway, Troy Baker's character is pretty much the right hand. I think his name is James. James is like the right hand man of David. So that's how she runs into them in the first place. And, it was a okay interaction. I will say that sequence with Ellie, James, and David when they're out in the snow and Ellie's holding the rifle and she's like talking to him like, drop your guns, take steps back, 10 steps back. But I can't even talk. Take 10 steps back and all that stuff. And I just felt like I don't know, like her delivery of those lines just wasn't compelling to me. Like, I know she's a child and she's trying to act tough. I get that, but I just didn't feel it. I didn't feel it, and I've been feeling that with her version of the character. We're pretty much just the show, like the second or third episode, but not the show's inception. When I first saw Ellie in the first episode, I was like, holy shit, that's Ellie. But after that, her delivery of some of these lines are just not, they're just not as compelling as the game. You know what I mean? And I know I'm doing it again, but I'm sorry. I'm done. I'm done like not comparing it because it's impossible. So that part was a little strange, but they cut out a whole bunch of stuff. There's a whole lot of scenes with David where Ellie starts to trust David and find somebody like, holy shit, there's actually good people out here. And then when you see that turn that David is not a good person at all, I feel like it hit a little bit harder in the game. But again, I feel like it's same story every video, every time I talk about it. I just feel like a lot of these turns just don't hit as well. I do think the show did it reasonably well with what they did. But again, no infected, not much violence. I will say we've had the most violence we've had in a while. You had Joel. He's like pretty much incapacitated, and then he just gets up randomly and stabs the one of David's people, and then he subdues the other two, and he does the famous torture scene that he does in the game where he's trying to find out where Ellie's at, and he stabs the one guy in the knee. The word I want to know, I'm going to pop your goddamn kneecap off. Like, it kind of say that, but I think they kind of switched the lineup. And that was pretty good. I will say, like, that was pretty, like, verbatim from the game. And I find that when they do scenes from the actual game, it's done well. Like, when they do, like scene by scene, it's done well. When they try to put their own little spin on it or they try to do these emotion-filled scenes, that it's just not doing it for me. When they try to do the scenes shot by shot, I liked all that. I thought that was good. I ain't telling you shit, man. Oh, it's all good. I believe him. And then kills the other guy with the pipe. I thought that was great, And it was good to see Joel whoop some ass a little bit. I was kind of waiting for that. I know he's old. I get it. But, I mean, dude, he should still be able to whoop some ass, at least a little bit. You know what I mean? And then, then you got the ending. Ellie kills David pretty viciously. The place is on fire, but it happens a little different in the show where she kills David, she gets up, she walks outside, and she's like in shock because of what she just did and what she just went through. And then, Joel comes behind her and he calls her baby girl and hugs her and tells her everything's okay. And, and it was a touching moment. But my main problem that I have, and the reason why it's not as touching to me, that kind of moment, calling her baby girl and all that, I still don't feel like Joel and Ellie's relationship is as tight as it should be. It's not as flourished and as deep as it should be at this point of the story. I know they tried, but I don't think they tried hard enough. Instead of focusing one episode on a gay couple that literally does nothing for the story, which I don't care. I don't care if they're gay. I just mentioned that because that's, obviously that's important nowadays, and we have to, put a certain. I'm trying to say this without sounding bad. You have to put these certain political things in your face. I don't care. Listen, I don't give a shit if they're gay. I really don't care. But instead of focusing a whole episode on that shit, instead, just a little idea here. We could have just focused on Joel and Ellie a bit more in episode 3. That way, it's a little bit more tight by the time you get to this point with the whole David storyline, as opposed to have focused on a whole episode on a relationship that pretty much goes nowhere, a story that goes nowhere, a character that goes nowhere. I'm still in that minority, man. I don't feel like that episode really meant anything. And so therefore, when you have episodes that don't mean shit, when you get to the points in the story where things are supposed to actually matter and you're supposed to actually care, and you can't because you don't have enough time with these characters. And speaking of not having enough time, I heard, I searched it with the sister last night. I'm pretty sure that the finale is only going to be 43 minutes long. And that's a big mistake. You cannot wrap up this show. You can't wrap up this story in 43 minutes. So they're going to butcher it. They're going to butcher it just like they've done, to me, with every episode. Now, butcher in a sense that it's not as good as the games. However, the episodes are okay. This feels like a straight up soap opera. This feels like just a lot of just pointless dialogue that doesn't hit as well. And it just, to me, it falls flat. And this is coming from a person that likes the episode. Last night when I first saw it, I was like, holy shit. I give that episode like an 8 or 9, man. I was pretty damn adamant about it. But after letting it stew and letting it sit, and I'm sorry I keep hitting my microphone. I got to get used to this joker right here. I will say I still think this is probably a 7. It's a well above average episode. I did enjoy it. But when I think about what it could have been, I get a little frustrated. I feel like this show the potential that it could have been, and to see the final product, it's upsetting. It's really, really like it's just, again, I titled one of my videos called Underwhelming. And that's what I feel like the show is. It's underwhelming because it's just not enough to draw you in. There's not enough terror, fear that, oh God, these characters are in real trouble. The emotion scenes, while one of them in particular did really get me, the conversation between Tommy and Joel, all the other emotional filled moments are just not there like the games. And there's a reason for that. They've rushed literally everything. And that's the downfall of the show for me. But anyway, that's all other thing. I know I'm going a little spiel like every video. I'm just want to flush out my thoughts because it's much more to it than I didn't like it or I did like it. I'm in this gray area because I just feel like it's a little bit deeper than I hate it or I really love it. It's just more of like, okay, I see the potential, but I know where it could go, and it's just not getting there, and it refuses to. So, but all in all, look, it was a decent episode. I enjoyed it. I've been saying that about every episode because it is. It's decent. I feel like decent is like the best word to use for this. It's subpar. It's not terrible. It's not great. It's right in the middle. It's just fine. You know what I mean? If you got nothing else to watch on TV and you just want to watch a apocalyptic show about characters talking for the whole episode and no infected and no danger, sure, watch it. But I mean, if there's anything else on, I would watch it because this show is just not. It just isn't hitting. For me, it's just not. And I really, to be honest with you, if you're a fan of the games and you're loving it, I don't. Besides the fact of them having our characters brought to life, from the game, I don't see the appeal. But it is keep me tuned in, and I will watch the finale, and I will make a review for episode 9. So anyway, with that being said, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. Let me know what your thoughts down in the comments below. And, yeah, we'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.